Wisconsin. Mr. Grossman is recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Grossman.
Thank you. I'm going to start out with a question here to Mr. Smith. There was some testimony that I thought sounded good on its face until you think about it a little bit, and that concerned the number of appointees that every president gets to fill out his bureaucracy. I believe we were told that there are 4,000 appointees he has, of which 1,200 have to be confirmed. And the implication was that we should have less of this, presumably replaced by more civil service people, by more career people, and less people who are immediately appointed. I kind of looked at it the other way. I want you to comment on it. I talked to one appointee of the Trump administration. She felt she had 2,000 people under her. And in general, she felt the bureaucracy was hostile to her reforms. And I thought how difficult it was to have the imprint of a president on an agency if you've, say, got this sub-agency of 2,000 employees and one person is the one who's supposed to be able to affect change. Could you comment on that, Mr. Smith? Do you feel there's a good or bad thing that really, again and again, we put people in positions in which they apparently have even over 1,000 people under them and have very little ability to discipline them or control them?
Yes, thank you for the question, Congressman. I think a couple of considerations go to your question. The first is, the framers of our Constitution certainly envisioned that the president would appoint high-ranking federal government officials with the advice and consent of the Senate. And so 2 points that I think others have raised that would help alleviate some of these concerns would be if administrations quickly put up nominees for many of the senior positions in the federal government, and then if the Senate would quickly give hearings to those executive branch nominees. Someone made the point earlier that over the past several years in administrations, the average time it's taken to confirm executive branch nominees has increased greatly. And so I think addressing some of those concerns with the way in which the current nomination and confirmation process works could be as effective at alleviating many of the concerns you raise.
Do you see, though, the potential danger or the difficulty? When I vote for a president, I expect that presidency to a certain extent have a certain vision for his administration. Do you see that apparently the implication was in the testimony that even 1,200 people who have to be confirmed or 4,000 appointees is clearly too much, and presumably we ought to have more civil service type appointees and have less employees picked by the president? Do you see the frustration there is with the swamp if, say, one of President Trump's appointees winds up in charge of an agency in which they have 1,000 people under them, and given that President Trump's mandate, insofar as he had a mandate, was to kind of clean up the swamp, how difficult it would be for this person to have implement any change? You see what I'm saying? It's one of the problems with the government.
I do. And certainly to the extent you convert positions from being politically appointed into civil service positions, the risk always exists that those positions will be less politically accountable. And to the extent you convert the positions into ones that do not need the Senate's advice and consent, that in some ways bumps up against concerns, again, for the system of government that was established by the framers of our Constitution. And so certainly a fruitful area for reform, again, would be examining how the current confirmation process works and suggesting potential mechanisms to make sure that works efficiently.
I'll just kind of wrap it up with a statement, Mr. Smith. If you are, okay, first of all, overwhelmingly the bureaucracy, insofar as it's partisan, I realize, we have the Hatch Act and they can't be overtly partisan, but here in the District of Columbia, like President Trump got 5% of the vote, which would indicate very few federal employees were voting for President Trump. If you are appointed to run a group of 1,000 people and you can't even have one person under you who you know for sure is loyal to you, it makes it almost impossible to implement the changes in government that you want. Thank you for giving me the extra few seconds.
The gentleman yields